Okay, at 7:24, we will call this meeting to order, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. No flag. There's a flag out there.
Okay, perfect. Where's our flag? Oh, outside.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Do we have a public comment sheet?
There was one back there. Before we start on public comments, I would like to make a statement. And before we proceed any further with this meeting, I would like to address a topic that has been brewing for a number of weeks. It's a very complex issue, and it relates to the calculation of GPA and thus class rank of our students at Norwalk High School. This has been a very polarizing issue. The professionals who run our school system should have addressed this, but the ball was dropped and it has been left to the 9 members of the Board of Education to fix this. I want to assure everyone that the board will not only be addressing this issue, but we will be fixing this issue. The board's policy committee will be taking careful review and will work with input from schools, teachers, counselors, administrators, as well as students and parents. And the goal here will be to create a level playing field for all students. NECA, Norwalk Early College Academy, is a great achievement of Norwalk Public Schools. And it is one of many academies that we are planning to have in existence at Norwalk Public Schools. The grade point average and ensuing impact on class rank was overlooked in all of the many steps that it took to establish and grow this program from nothing 4 years ago to a school of almost 400 students today. All of us on the board are very proud of NECA and the people who have made NECA the success that it is. They have all done a great job. The board has developed a short-term proposal which we will be voting on this evening. We feel this proposal is an equitable solution to deal with this unexpected situation. And we expect to have a long-term solution to this problem to be developed over the summer by the policy committee. I do want to explain one thing. Many seem to think there was a conscious decision was made by the district that allowed this to happen. This is not correct. The reason this entire situation came about was because of our computer grading database known as PowerSchool. We last changed, this is the board, changed our policy on grading and grade point average and weights in 2012. And at the time, NPS worked under a system known as Genesis. The fields and weights for courses were established at that time. And this system was transferred identically 3 years ago when we made the switch to PowerSchool. When NECA began 4 years ago, no specific changes were made to the database. PowerSchool automatically calculates GPA and thus class ranks based on the information that's fed into it, grades and credits. Nothing more, nothing less. Thus, the way a computer was programmed a number of years ago explains how the current situation came about. Some might argue this should have been foreseen, but let's remember all the many moving pieces that were required to build a brand new cutting-edge school. We will now move on to public comments. I don't know if there's a sheet, if there's anybody.
Is there a sign-up sheet?
There was a sign-up sheet on that table back there. Is there anything, Howie? Is there anyone on it?
We'll begin the public comments. Public comments are limited to 3 minutes. I would ask you to step up to the microphone, state your name and address for the record. Keep your comments polite and civil and relevant to the topic. I will wave my hand when there are 30 seconds left, and we can go from there. There's only 2 people signed up. And first is Chaz Bethel Gresham.
Should I face this way? Or?
Okay. 3 minutes.
This one's short and sweet. I'm Chaz Bethel-Brusha. I live on 17 Apple Tree Lane. Many people weren't able to attend tonight's meeting, so I'm speaking on behalf of myself and other traditional track students in Norwalk High School. We appreciate the attention that the Board of Ed and the administration is giving to our concerns about the GPA and ranking system. We want to reiterate that this issue goes beyond who's speaking at graduation this year, that this affects the college and scholarship application process for the entire student body at NHS. We reached out to Dr. Adamowski and look forward to meeting with him next week to share our perspectives with him. We also want to once again say that we celebrate the accomplishments of our NECA peers and wish only to be recognized alongside them as high school graduates through a system that is fair and equitable to all. Thank you.
Thank you, Chaz. Thanks. Next up is Howie Zepperstein. Three minutes, Howie. Sure.
Howie Zipperstein, 10 Noah Lot Lane is where I spend most of my time, but I'm actually from Sandy Hook. Thanks for the opportunity to speak tonight. I feel it's important because of the blatant disregard for students, parents, and teachers in regards to the 2018-2019 Norwalk school calendar. I'm very confused on how a calendar that was approved over a year ago was decided by someone to be modified a few months before the 2018-2019 school year is to begin. Most practical people ask, how does such a thing happen? What does approved really mean? What changed in the past year to believe that that is a must to change the calendar to start the school year earlier? How will this affect the students that have vacation plans and camps? What about the buildings that are renovated or having asbestos remediation? Are these buildings going to be ready and safe? Will teachers have time to set up their rooms? How hot is it going to be in those classrooms that do not have air conditioners? I heard that this change was thought of because of September having many days off and there not being full weeks of school to start the school year. Wasn't this already known when the calendar was approved last year? This hasn't changed. There has been no event that is catastrophic enough to make this last-minute change. Why do the decision makers in Norwalk continuously attempt to make last-minute changes without any input from the parents, students, and staff? Why is it there remains to be no communication between the decision makers and the members of the community who are affected by these continuous thoughtless decisions and changes till the decisions are being voted on? I just shake my head and wonder. Vote against this calendar change to support students, families, and teachers. Thank you.
Thanks, Howie. That is it for our public comment sign-up list. Is there anyone who did not sign up that wishes to speak? Okay, that ends public comments. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. We will now move on to our business. We have 4 items of business to cover. Our first item of business will be approval of a calendar, a revised calendar for 18-19. I believe in the packet there were the originally approved calendar as well as a proposed revised calendar. I guess we need a motion. I'm not sure how we want to phrase it, but Mr. Lyons, please proceed.
Mr. Chairman, as you know, there are two calendars that are included in the packet. One was the original calendar approved on 5/16/17. The other is the proposed revised draft that would have moved the school day 2 days earlier. I'd like to move that we once again approve the earlier version of the calendar, which shows a start date on Wednesday instead of Monday. This is indicated as approved 5/16/17. So my motion is to approve that earlier calendar as the final calendar for the year.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to second the motion.
Okay, motion was seconded by Ms. Meyer-Mitchell. Any discussion? No discussion? Well, then we'll move to a vote. All in favor? All in favor? That's Julie, can you hear any of this?
Julie?
Julie, can you hear us? Aye. She said.
Your
That's a
aye?
yes vote.
Okay, so that is 7 in favor, all opposed, abstaining, and 1 abstention. So 701. Thank you. Our next order of business is approval of the gifted and talented elements of redesign and timeline for implementation. Dr. Kimmel.
Julie can hear me. Barbara, do you want to use?
Yes.
Thank you.
She can hear, she just can't speak.
I know she can speak. You know what I meant.
We'll work it out.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you. I would like to move the resolution and after a second speak to it if I may. The resolution is resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools that the Board of Education approves the gifted and talented elements of redesign and timeline for implementation. I move the item.
A question, clarification? Is that this red line that we have right here? Okay,
I second.
Yes.
thank you.
Okay. If I may.
Yes, please.
Thank you. All of you should have the original, first of all, the original packet had an outline on the 3-year process of implementing the program. Julie Corbett and myself asked a fair amount of questions towards the end of last week, and they were answered and by Ms. Gorovich. Thank you for that. Where she fleshed out a number of the issues that were done in a rather a sparse bullet point format. And so that's what you have in front of you. This is the official backup as far as I'm concerned. I don't know if the Board of Ed has to take any action to substitute this backup for the original.
No, if you made the motion to adopt
Okay.
it, that's good enough.
So I'm making the original motion. Okay, thank you. Just briefly, to me as a new member of the board, this has been a fascinating experience. This is a complicated issue. We discussed it at length at a board workshop. The Curriculum and Instruction Committee discussed it. The SPED Task Force discussed it. When we had our middle school redesign workshop at Roten School, we discussed it there. And then we had a joint Curriculum and Instruction Committee and SPED Task Force meeting where we discussed it even further. I think in almost all of those meetings we had constructive input from the gifted and talented teachers. Meanwhile, most of the questions that were raised either at meetings or in informal discussions have been answered, I think, promptly and thoroughly by the staff of the Board of Ed. And I certainly appreciate that. I want to note that we sometimes forget that we had consultants involved in this process, the Hanover Group, and in my opinion, the report, this conforms, what we have in front of us, conforms to their recommendations for our consultants. And that's extremely important. We're not just doing this on flying blind. It does implement many of the elements of the Rinzulli method, and I'm pleased with that. That's been around for a while. It's highly successful. And in fact, last campaign, I campaigned on that with others. It's a good way to approach gifted and talented education. The bottom line, because there was some concern that there will be no reduction in services at all, whether it has to do with staffing or time of instruction. In fact, under the program, the actual gifted and talented instruction will increase dramatically. And when I say dramatically, that is not an exaggeration. It will go from 1 or 2 pull-outs every week or so to the pull-outs plus all day, every day within their classrooms, because the classrooms will be configured differently. I want to thank all of the folks who have been discussing this change over the last couple of months. It's been a great discussion. I'm amazed at the detailed knowledge many of my board colleagues have about our schools, what's going on in the schools, what we can do and what we can't do. And I'm also pleased that almost all of the questions were responded to promptly, as I indicated before, by the Board of Ed staff. I hope we can support it. As you noticed, it will be monitored by the Curriculum and Instruction Committee over the next couple of years. Everything that goes through that committee will go to the full board, and we will look at not only the personnel issues, the time issues, we will look at the consequences in terms of test scores and a variety of factors. Thank you. I hope we can support this.
This is a board.
Do we have any other discussion? I guess, so we have, Mike, you made the motion, you seconded, so we're in actual discussion. Yes? Sarah?
Sarah did.
I don't have anything.
Yes, Barbara, please.
I am enthusiastic about all the possibility that we are piloting here, and I'm eagerly following its progress. I do urge the administration and the board to consider for this next year signing on to something like RazzuliLearning.com, which provides curriculum differentiation support for the Tier 1 instruction teachers, for our gen ed teachers. If we are in our 2 pilot schools where we are intending to use the clustering to make sure that our gen ed teachers have the support to do that differentiation. Once we compact the curriculum, which I hope will support them in as well, that they have some guidance as to what to fill the rest of the time with, so that, as you say, gifted and talented or academically talented does become a full-time program for our gifted students. So I'm very enthusiastic and very excited, and I also know that a pilot is a pilot, and we're going to figure out how to go as we go, and it will get better every year. So thank you for all your hard work, all of you, especially Ms. Gorovich, Mr. Preller, Nancy Eastlake. You've all been, and of course, Christine Griffith, and the rest of the AT staff. Thank you for your hard work. I know we grilled you, but it was with the best intention of a good result in the end.
Thank you, Barbara. Yes, Mr. Lyons.
I also wanted to, in particular, I wanted to compliment the chair and the members of the curriculum committee. This final product here is a joint project of the staff and the curriculum committee and the Board of Ed. Significant modifications were made to this after the initial proposal. It was a real good back and forth. That was a thorough job. I had expressed some concerns about what was happening originally, and Bruce in particular did a great job explaining how these changes are going to enhance the program and not weaken it, which some of us were afraid of at the beginning. So I just wanted to compliment the board members along with the staff for a great job on this.
Thank you, Mr. Lyons. Any other comments? Well, since none of my other board members are speaking, I will make one final comment. This has been a process that's gone through a lot of vetting. There's been a committee that has been working on this for, I don't know how long you got, 6 months? 8 months. There were teachers on that committee. There were parents on that committee. There was a board member, Brien McMahon, on that committee. They traveled. They discussed a lot of things. Nancy was there overseeing the progress. And this has not gone lightly. And many of us on the board have grilled the superintendent and Yvette as we were concerned as to how this was going to play out. And we were, the uncertainty and everything else. But I think we have a good product. We've already approved a testing methodology that we feel will be more effective, more of a 21st century testing methodology. And I think, we've come up with a plan that's going to be different than what we've had, but we think is an improvement. And I think as Barbara said, this is just a beginning and there can be further changes. And Dr. Kimmel, who's a former teacher, is going to be watching this, I'm assuming, very carefully. Even late this afternoon, I sent Yvette a series of questions because I was concerned, some different feedback I'd gotten from parents and other contacts. And I have to say, we really got some great responses. And so I think we have a plan. And I think this board is very looking forward to seeing this plan get into action. So unless there are any further comments or changes, there's one minor change, Mary. There is one minor change. Before you proceed, I just want to suggest under staffing on 3.3i, gifted and talented teachers invited to attend conference 2. I believe a grant has always paid for those teachers to attend that conference, so I would assume that would continue. I don't know if the language should reflect that versus just invited, but Christine, yeah?
PAT teachers took it upon themselves to seek outside funding grant.
Oh, I'm sorry, I misunderstood. Okay. Okay, Yvette, please.
The district has committed to supporting the team to go to Concord.
Okay.
Every place we went, we heard it is the place to learn and to share.
Yeah.
The language of the invitation was respectfully indicating that it was voluntary and that it was not a contractual obligation. We were supporting it, but it is.
So it's voluntary, but we would fund it, or it would be funded. Is that correct? Okay.
Correct.
Does that clarification make sense? Mary, anything further?
I have another question. Under number 3, letter A says staff vacancies 2 middle school. And then under letter D, it says 1 gifted talented teacher to be assigned at middle school. So do we end up with 2 middle school teachers or 1 middle school teacher?
No, the plan all along, I mean, the final plan is that there would be 1 G&T teacher at each building, at each middle school building. And we know at this point, currently, we only have 2 gifted and talented AT teachers in middle school, Ms. Barrington, and I forget the science teacher's name, and the other 2 positions are unfilled. So that's why it talks about hiring 2 middle school, because we don't have them.
That's what I was hoping. So that letter D, I could assume really means to be assigned at each school?
Yes. And we can revise that. So each, and I don't know, Yvette, maybe you can just give us some language after on how, that I invited and whatever, I don't know, funded or something to attend Confertude. So unless there are any other changes, I would propose we proceed with a vote. All in favor? Julie?
Aye.
Thank you. So it's 8 votes in favor, none opposed, no abstentions. Thank you very much, everyone, for this long haul. Yvette, you were to be commended for your patience for seeing us through. Okay, now we're going to move on to business item number 3. This is approval to join the CREC Next Generation Science Curriculum Consortium for the purpose of writing science curricula that implements the next generation science standards as adopted by the state of Connecticut. This is overseen by Mr. Kimmel. You're making a motion to approve. Could I have a second? Ms. Meyer-Mitchell. I'm sure you want to make some comments, Bruce, as chair of the curriculum committee. I know Craig's been very involved in this. I think how many districts? 71? Was the last?
73.
73 districts are on board with this, so this is obviously the way to go. Dr. Kimmel, the floor is yours.
Yes, this is another very long overdue initiative. It really is. This was an issue in the mid-90s, when I was president of Cranberry School PTO in the mid-90s. Science instruction in our elementary schools was an issue then. And at the turn of the century, it was still an issue. Apparently, it's not going to be an issue going forward. And I really want to thank Craig for taking the initiative and figuring out how to get this done quickly and in a way that minimizes the cost of the district. This is a terrific initiative. And like I said, long overdue. And this is something that we should be really proud of once this opens up all kinds of vistas for classroom instruction once we get going with this. Goes far beyond science. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Meyer-Mitchell.
As a parent, first and foremost, I'm thrilled. This makes my heart sing. As I sat with teachers in their classrooms at teacher conferences, and I said, what do you need to do hands-on science in the classroom? They told me 3 things. They said, we need time, we need materials, and we need training. This program provides all 3 things. And I couldn't be, our group of board members that ran this fall, this was part of our platform. So to see it come to fruition so quickly is thrilling. My only sadness is that my children can't go back and do elementary school and get all of this good learning under their belt, but I think I might bother Craig to get my hands on some bundles and do it at home. So I do want to address so for the public that may not be aware, because not everybody goes to committee meetings or reads committee minutes, but some of the exciting aspects of this are that we have booked 45 days of professional development that is timed so that each bundle or each unit comes up, the teacher gets training right as it's about to hit, half a day each time. So they will have that resource. On top of that, they have access to an online community of teachers around the state and across the country, Craig? Is it just in the state? Okay. Who are also working on these same materials, and they can ask questions of each other and get suggestions. That kind of support from your peers is invaluable, and it can make you feel less alone in your classroom. So I'm very excited about that. Finally, the resources for the teachers and the students are so wonderfully tangible. First of all, in the kits that are essentially Blue Apron for teachers, that everything they need to create hands-on science is right there. My brother is an elementary science teacher, and he said in his school they chose to break it out and have a whole separate individual because a lot of elementary teachers are intimidated by the science curriculum and how to execute that. And I think we've created a wonderful means to invite them to play, because it is one of the most fun subjects that we do. And then the last piece that I'm not sure everybody is aware of, this also gives us a huge online library of nonfiction for our students, which is a resource that's invaluable. As our kids spend maybe less time in the library and more time online, this gives them a resource of something useful and tangible that they can spend their time, online time, delving into. So I think the sky's the limit for our students, and I couldn't be more pleased. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? We lost Sarah for a second. Okay, well, if there are no further comments. Julie, do you have any comments on this?
Nope, I am enthusiastically supportive of it moving forward.
Okay. That's great. Well, if we're ready, if all in favor? All in favor, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 of us. Julie is,
Yes.
that includes Julie as I. I'm assuming, Julie, you're in favor. And Sarah, you in favor? Okay, so 8-0-0 in favor of approval to join the CREC group for Next Generation Science Standards. Thank you very much. That also is another project that's been in the works for a long time. And our fourth order of business is a resolution that we cooperatively had discussed, and this is what I was referring to in my introductory remarks as a one-year, one-time solution. Ironically, this will not be the first time, I believe, there are co-valedictorians at Norwalk High School, although the circumstances are definitely different. So I would like to, a motion to support on this resolution. Ms. Keys and Dr. Kimmel seconds. I will read the resolution, and then we can have a discussion. Resolve that the students currently ranked, or no, we changed this, didn't we? Or you're going to? Okay.
Yes.
Heidi, do you have that language? Do you want to read that?
I do, if you
Okay.
don't mind.
Yes, please.
There's just, Julie, we want to make sure that you can hear us and be heard, actually.
Thank you. I can hear, thanks.
Thank you. One thing I also, before I do this, I just wanted to mention, as a board, we wanted to make sure we're fair and equitable for our NECA students as well as our in-house Norwalk High School students. Currently, it does read, resolve that the students currently ranked number 1 and 2 in the GPA calculation at Norwalk High School shall be designated co-valedictorians for the class of 2018, and the student currently ranked number 3 in said calculation shall be the salutatorian for the class of 2018. What we'd like to change it to is resolve that the students ranked number 1 and 2 at the end of the school year in the GPA calculation at Norwalk High School shall be designated co-valedictorians for the class of 2018, and the student currently ranked number 3 in said calculation shall be the salutatorian for the class of 2018.
Okay. Yes. Any discussion of either the original or the amended version? Yes, Ms. Meyer Mitchell.
I know this is slightly off topic. I want to address the work that will be done this summer and urge the policy committee and the board and the administration to plan to retroactively apply whatever the policy is so that our underclassmen are weighted correctly, whatever the new policy is. That's all I really wanted to say.
Okay. Anybody?
You mean the policy that the board adopts after policy committee deliberation?
Correct, that it then be applied retroactively, because I understand that this issue is going to affect all the people who've started down these pathways.
If I could just add
Yes,
another
Ms. Keys,
comment on that.
please.
Barbara, I'm in full agreement on that, and I think as a policy committee, we will be working on that. We normally don't have committees over the summer, but we realize the pressing issue here. We want to make sure that we work on this, and we will have stakeholders, parents, students involved in this really important issue. So again, I will emphasize that we want to be fair and equitable to all, and that's our goal, and that's what we'll continue to do.
Dr. Kimmel.
You know, I don't think it's a question that we dropped the ball or we missed something. Of course we did, but the bigger issue is that I think we're experiencing growing pains. As a district grows and it becomes more aligned with 21st century education, we're going to find ourselves in uncharted territory when it comes to a variety of things, including GPAs. And this is new to us, it's new to the students, and it's something we're going to have to adjust to and be mindful of as we go forward, as we introduce all kinds of programs. And our kids come to school with different academic entanglements. We're going to constantly be adjusting the way we think and the way we calculate things. So, like I said, we're going to correct it. It's something that stuff happens, but like I said, I think it's reflective of some positive trends that are moving quickly.
Okay, thank you, Bruce.
Mr. Chairman, if there are no other board comments, I just wanted to say a couple of things about this. I think that the solution is a very good short-term solution, but I'm hoping that as the policy committee looks at this, as the board as a whole considers this issue further, that we can use it as an opportunity to create a more contemporary, updated system that may be less competitive than the traditional system. And I think as one looks at the history of high schools and then looks at the best high schools today, you can see this evolution occurring. So the GPA is a remnant of the old industrial high school, whose objective was to sift and sort and to rank students from number one down to the last student. There were winners and losers. We are now approaching an era where the board has approved a high school program of study with 26 credits. We have multiple academies. We have multiple pathways. That is all designed to create a situation in which virtually every student can be successful, and that there are not winners and losers, but a lot of winners. The paths to success are going to be different depending upon the academy, depending upon the pathways. I was very struck by the article that Mr. Meek sent out about this. If one looks at the trends here, one of the trends is to identify a larger group of top scholars. In Mr. Meek's example, it was 5. And this is based upon criteria that is broader than just the GPA. Another trend among some of the top private and public high schools in the state is to discontinue having valedictorians and salutatorians. Good example is our neighbor Staples High School in this regard. And then a third is to allow students or faculty but I think the schools that do this primarily rely on students within a set of criteria to select those students to represent them at graduation that best embody the values of the class in terms of their activities, commitments, and values. And so, again, as we look at this, I hope we will not only look for a level playing field, but we'll look to update in this area as we have updated the program of studies and as we are seeking to create not only a level playing field, but to create success for all of our students.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Keys, do you feel that's the purview of the committee? Do you want to address that? So just so we set it straight for the record,
Yeah.
Are we going to do this in two parts, or are we going to do this all at once?
We're gonna work on it. I'm gonna reach out, we've already reached out to Adam Reynolds, Scott Horwitz at Brien McMahon High School. So we'll be working on forming almost like a focus group that will be consists of parents, students. Students are so valuable. They're in the trenches, they're in high school, they've worked really hard to reach the status that they've reached. So we really want to incorporate that. Any other stakeholders. We want to really formulate having focus groups and then bring their findings back to our policy committee. So we're working on this. We know the issue that's at hand and we know that we need to get it resolved, and we will. I think all of us here on the board are committed to that. And again, we'll be looking for direction as well from Adam Reynolds as well as Scott Horwitz.
Okay, well, thank you, Heidi. I actually had the slightly different version I didn't realize in front of me, so I just want to read this before we vote, if everyone's in agreement with that. Resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools that the Board of Education approves that the students ranked numbers 1 and 2 at the end of the school year in the GPA calculation at Norwalk High School shall be designated co-valedictorians for the class of 2018, and that the student currently ranked number 3 in said calculation shall be the salutatorian for the class of 2018. All in favor?
Julie?
Julie, all in favor?
Yes, that's a yes.
Yes?
Yep, yep.
Thank you.
NHS robotics kids who put like a Judy
They could change, right? So that is 8-0-0 in favor of this motion. And that is the last item of business in the public session. And we will have a short recess until we go into executive session of 5 minutes. And at 8:01, the public session is concluded.